Hi everybody, my name is Karl Sandoval. I am a custom guitar builder and I repair guitars, both electric and acoustic, and it's been my career since the mid-70s when I began my job with working with Wayne Chevelle. Now stay tuned because I've got a story of one of my experiences with Randy Rhoads that I think you'll find very interesting. But before we get to that, let me just share a few things about what I do off camera. There's so many things that I do that I really can't get everything on video yet, but you know, I will try my best to just accommodate my viewers, YouTube viewers, such things as the custom guitars that I'm working on, the repairs that I do. So in time, you know, I'll start developing skills to do this. So you'll just have to bear with me up until that point. But off camera, I do get jobs that I want to do, and this particular job has to do with this guitar here. This was a blessing given to me from a member of a church that I had belonged to, and it had been in the family for a while. And just stay tuned and check this out because this is actually pretty interesting. This guitar is a close replica of the type of acoustic that will be in this story that I will be sharing with you. So hang in there, it's coming. So I just wanted to give you a little information about this guitar. It came to me with a neck on it, and the neck was, the string action was really high, and these were just sort of a cheap box guitar that Silvertone had made, Harmony had made, K-Guitar. There's a variety of companies out there that actually made this guitar, and one of the things that I really liked that they did was that they gave really cool, here I'll put it under the light, you can see they really knew how to paint a nice burst with an amber center. Now this is a, it looks to be like a laminate spruce top, but it's, if you can see, it's contoured. Right here, it's got a contour to it. It's not flat. And same with the back. Now there happens to be some nice figure. Let me get up close and maybe we can see that figure. I don't know if you can see that, but it's got some figure that they were able to use in the laminate. Now the type of paint that was used back in the day for these was a nitrocellulose lacquer. And they could have used some other forms of finish, but you know, it just all depends on the company and how much money they wanted to invest in the production of these models. These were very inexpensive. Even on the sides, they did some of the, like the cherry burst on the side, and they put a little bit down here, but they exposed the amber tint underneath. Now, this particular model has a very thin coat, and I'm almost certain it's nitrocellulose lacquer. And you can see closely, if I had a real close-up look, I can see all sorts of checking in the finish. But that kind of gives it a real patinaed age look, which is what everybody likes nowadays. This particular model had binding. It was a figured binding around the edge of the guitar on the front. And then on the back, it was just plain white binding. It's not painted on. This is actual material that was glued. There was a slot made, and it was glued onto the edges. So here's a view of the neck joint right here. It had a V inset neck joint, but that's basically what I'm repairing. But I did another modification to it. Typically they came duplicated, where like this was actually at the other side here as well. And what I did was I put in a cutaway so I could have easier access. Now I'm modifying this guitar for me to play, so this will be my own personal guitar, and I'm really not going to do a finish on it. I would like to retain what it looks like now, and I think it'll look great when it's done. But I've got a two-way adjustable truss rod that I'll be installing, along with a new rosewood fingerboard, and it's a pretty short scale. And this is the neck here. Now, one of the things that I did was I sanded down the old original fingerboard, which was very decrepit looking, and there was a lot of gluing and kind of like a puzzle putting things together on this neck. I mean, it was kind of unglued in a few places here, but I have since made those repairs. You can see also they put binding on the face of the headstock, and it's got the cherry burst on the back of the neck. And I put in the truss rod in so I could be able to adjust this neck. I think it had a truss rod in it, but it definitely was not working. Back in the day, they would put a truss rod that just gave you an underbow adjustment, but this thing was just was not there, was not functioning. So 6 and not 6 and 9, 3 left, 3 right. I've got the tuners here, and they look like this. Very basic and primitive looking instrument. Here's the bone nut. Here's the adjustable rosewood bridge. And then it had sort of a faded tortoiseshell pick guard. It's actually white in the back, but it's the tortoiseshell on the front, and it's so faded, I don't know if it was darker or if it faded. And the way that I'm determining that it's faded is that I can see the real bad discoloration. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but down here it's darker and up here it's lighter. So I've got all the pieces here, also the bridge. This is what was fastened on to the back of the body with the bridge at this point here. I mean, I think when it's done, it's going to be a very cool sort of just an inexpensive vintage guitar that's been customized by myself. So I've got all the parts, and I plan to get it all together. And I'm showing this for a reason, and that's leading to the story of this experience that I had that I thought was phenomenal. When Randy came and we spoke about his Dot V, which is a whole story in itself, he showed up 2 or 3 times, and it's very enlightening to talk to him. The guy was just so pleasant. I mean, the way he portrayed himself as an individual was with total respect to others, kind-hearted. He was very soft-spoken. He really wasn't a loud, radical metal guy, but yet you listen to his music, and he's so fantastic on that electric guitar. It's just phenomenal. So I knew he was in Quiet Riot, and I knew his name. I knew who he was, and you know, he showed up in 1979, and it was a referral from playing one of my vintage guitars that I had made for George Lynch. Fell in love with it, and he gave me a call. But during the transaction of building this guitar, we went from my double garage area, which I shared with another tenant, you know, and then into the living room and the kitchen where my table was, and that's pretty much all I really had at the very beginning. And so I was writing an invoice at one time during one of his visits, and of course he was sitting down there. I asked him to sit down, and you know, I'm writing out the invoice, and I had a guitar similar to this one leaning up against the wall in my fourplex apartment. And you know, he picks it up, but you know, he just calmly said, "May I pick it up?" You know, he's super polite. And I said, "Sure, go ahead, knock yourself out, you know, play it." And this guitar was one that my dad used, It wasn't a cherry burst like this one. It was a tobacco burst, which is more of a brown fading into the amber. And this guitar I managed to take with me when I got married and moved out of the house. Belonged to my dad, like I said, and he picks it up, and I remember it having big gauge bronze wound strings on it. I mean, we're talking thick, 58 high E, probably like a, I don't know, 13 plus high E string, and everything in between was just big gauge. And so it was one of the contributing factors that gave it high action. And back then, no matter what I did, I mean, I knew enough, and I think I worked with it, or I set it off to the side to work on it later, but I just remember it being a bear to play. Here I'm used to like 8s and 9s on an electric guitar with low action. You know, you got a little bit of fret, and it just, you can play the guitar like crazy. But on this acoustic, similar to this one, and it was very difficult to play. It was either, I'm thinking it was a harmony, but it could have been a silver tone, but I'm thinking it was a harmony. But Randy proceeds to pick up the guitar, and he's sitting there and he goes into a classical style, because a classical guitarist sits differently, and typically they don't play them standing up, they're playing them, I mean, they do, but he plays it sitting down, opens his legs, and sets the guitar there, and I noticed his fingernails were long, and now I know why, because he used to study classical guitar, or he was really heavy into classical guitar at that time. And you got to remember, this was pre-Ozzy Osbourne. So there was some classical influence there, because how did he know how to hold the guitar? How did he know how to finger pick? And the catch-all of this whole memory was, as I'm writing the invoice, he plays a tune on this steel string acoustical guitar similar to this one. This classical piece that he played sounded beautiful. And I had to stop, and I'm watching, you know, and he just proceeds to play. And I'm going, in my mind, I'm thinking, who is this guy? I mean, I know of him and everything, but if this is an example of how he plays classical, I can imagine how he incorporates it with his rock music and his soloing. And I think if you listen to his music, you'll hear there's classical sensitivity built into his soloing and his guitar technique and playing. Phenomenal. It was just awesome. And he just played this tune all the way through, and then, you know, he stops, and then I started asking him, well, are you a classical guitar player? You know, I mean, typical dumb questions, but of course he was. And, you know, we just talked a little bit about it, and he shared with me that he had been studying classical, and he wants to get more involved with it. And, you know, if you read articles, he mentions classical guitar playing, and so this was a first for me, and I got to hear him, and it was just amazing. I asked him, I go, how can you play this guitar with such high string action? He says, well, I'm used to it. I love playing this guitar. And he says, if you check out my Les Paul, it's got high action. So it just so happened he had brought the Les Paul with him, and he pulls it out, and I look at it, and the action is really high. I mean, you got to remember, Randy Rhoads is not a big, muscular-looking guy. He was very tapered and very rock-looking. He was thin, and so he goes, and you know, of course, being a guitar builder and repairman, I asked him, I go, well, why is your action so high? What? And if that wasn't difficult for me, you know, I wasn't that great of a player back then. I mean, I could doodle around, but I asked him, I go, well, there's no frets on this guitar. And it was the Les Paul. It was his white Les Paul that he showed me, and the frets on it were like shaven down, milled down. I think they called them fretless wonders. There was like no fret at all. And he goes, that's why I have to have my action high, so I can get underneath the string and pull my notes up. And we all know that he's fantastic on that white Les Paul. So it's kind of like you get used to what's given to you or what you end up with or end up playing on for the longest time. He got used to high action, heavier strings, no fret, and he just was really fantastic about acclimating and adjusting to that scenario. Fantastic. It just proved to me once again, and I have other stories of people that were guitarists that I talked to regarding how they play their instruments after seeing what they do. And it helped me understand musicianship, guitar playing technique a lot better when I heard and watched these players down the road. They all had something different. They were all doing something different. George Lynch, Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads, Tracy G. I mean, and the list is forever. It just goes on and on and on. But I was like floored, and I complimented him, and I remember telling him that I've never heard my dad's guitar sound that good. So I'm just like, it was such an awesome experience, and for me, it's a memory that I'll never forget. I miss Randy. I miss his personality, and but the guy was just so cool, so easy to talk to, and deserves all the awards that are going to be coming. He recently just got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Congratulations to Randy Rhoads, a well-deserved award, which should have come a long time ago, but nonetheless he got it. Congratulations. He is a memory we will all have for years to come. So, a story I just wanted to share with you, and I hope you found it interesting. Please share this video with other people that you know that like Randy Rhoads. I would like to thank everybody for the contributions, the support, in all ways that you've given me. I am introducing Patreon now, so by all means, please get onto Patreon. And I'll post on my Facebook, and I'll try to get some links on this video of all my social media. Check me out on my social media. I'm on Patreon now. I've got YouTube videos, more to come. I'm on Facebook. I've got Instagram, plenty of cool photos on Instagram, and I'm trying to update everything as much as I can. Send me a question on my email, carl@karlsandoval.com. These questions will come up on my Q&A, which I just started, and my first video is up and running on YouTube. Check that video out. It's kind of interesting. But email me questions. I may end up using one on my segment or session on Q&A. So I'm not going to be mentioning names, but you know who you are, and you know pretty much everybody will hit these same questions anyway. So the whole idea of the support that I keep asking for, it's not because I'm greedy. Trust me, I'm not a millionaire. I don't even have hundreds of thousands of dollars. I make a living like everybody else. I have a job. And I'm just noticing that the amount of time that I'm putting into these videos and, you know, just getting everything all together with social media, you know, it's a lot of time. And I don't want it really to affect and it hasn't affected my productivity. I'm on schedule like I'd like to be. There's only so much one man can do, and I'd like to keep my quality standards high, but in the interim of all that's going on, I do need some financial support. Like I say, I've just created a job, and my guitars are few and far apart, and in between the making and fabrication of these custom guitars, I have expenses. I have bills like everybody else. I pay rent, I pay insurance, I have to buy supplies. So it's got to come from all sources that I work with, and this will be one. So your support will help me finance these videos, upgrading some of my machinery. I've got blades that are dull, sandpaper needed. I need to refurbish some of my machinery. I need to purchase some new machinery. So if you can make any contribution at all, you can do it right away through PayPal, just using my email, Karl@KarlSandoval.com. I hate having to just reach my hand out, but you know, we all have to make a living, and this happens to be my choice. I love doing it, and I love sharing all my knowledge with you. Your contributions don't have to be a lot. Small amounts add up if there's a lot of people out there that are watching what I'm sharing. So I would appreciate it greatly if you gave me a helping hand financially. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching this video. Share everything that I have on social media with your friends. If you have any questions at all, send me an email. I love you all, and thank you for watching. God bless. Bye-bye.